Speedway Report is a production of ZTV. Well, we're 4 days into 2021, and the Australian Grand Prix date is already threatened once again. Tony Stewart's new series is rolling out the red carpet, and Bill Lester will have a new book ready for early 2021. We've got all this and more coming up. Welcome, Speedway Report, Monday, January 4th, 2021. Doesn't it feel good to say that date? We are live from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. I'm Patrick Reynolds, and thank you for joining the fastest half hour in racing. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Give us a look. Do a little search on YouTube. Find us, subscribe to us. We'll get into your mailbox every single week. Now, I'm not here to begin the new year, new year, ready to put everything behind us. Because we flipped the calendar and the date is now 2021, it doesn't mean anything. Everything that we were facing in December, November, October, we're still facing them as we go into January. Don't kid yourself. Just because of the new date, well, there's hope for optimism. However, everything that you're facing, you're conquering, you're working on, as we do this show live January 4th, we still need to address, which we're certainly going to get into as we roll through the show tonight. So new year, new you, no way. New year, same stuff, but hopefully we're a little smarter, a little wiser, ready to roll up our sleeves and tackle this a little bit more. Fair warning, I might make some people mad tonight. Let's talk about the victory lane lap for starters, though. Yes, there was racing over the New Year's holiday. A lot of hangovers and enduros that used to be scheduled. Can't find as many anymore, but let's talk about some late model racing down in New Smyrna Beach, Florida on the half-mile pavement. The Red Eye was the 100, now the Red Eye 50-50 for super late models and pro late models with support classes. The super race was won by Jeff Schofield, coming out of, well, a little bit of a hibernation from racing. Glad to see him and welcome him back to the high banks in New Smyrna. The Pro Late Model 50 was won by Brad May as he held off former Cup racer Mike Skinner for the checkered flags. In the Tulsa Shootout down in Oklahoma, Mitchell Moles won the 55-lap Outlaw A feature, while Mason Kiefer won the 600cc modified race. For this big event, all the different classes in the Tulsa Exposition Center, over 1,000 entries have been part of this race for the past 6 years. They cleared that mark certainly this year. They have for the past 5. This was 6 in a row. I tried to find the exact number of entries before showtime. Could not get it. They'll probably have it when they recheck the stats and the scorecards. But yeah, over 1,000 entries as they're getting prepped. Well, in a week from right now, we'll be on night 1 of the Chili Bowl. And speaking of staying on dirt near me in Seymour, Tennessee, they ran their annual hangover race at 411 Speedway. Pierce McCarter was the winner of the 50-lap super late model dirt car race. They also have a nice one left over Thanksgiving weekend. So props to 411 for giving race fans, well, something to dive into on these big holiday weekends. Let's talk about the Australian Grand Prix. This is currently the opening race on the Formula One circuit. All I have heard all day long, scuttlebutt from Sky Sports, straight out of the United Kingdom, as this will be postponed again. This race was not held last year. I don't think it was anyway. But this was the first one that got axed, so to speak, off of COVID-19. This was the next one in the series, or the first one, the opening race of Formula One. That point in March when we all remember is kind of like those standstill in time, that time stamp. We all remember where you were during the week in March when those couple weekends came, and we all went, what the heck is going on? Formula One was going to race in Australia, but now because of, the coronavirus and what it looks like, what's happening, this race looks to be postponed from March 21st. Looks to be March 28th, I think, if I have my dates right. In the later March race in Bahrain will now be the opening race of the Formula One circuit. Australia going to be postponed and put into the schedule somewhere else. So not yet. We haven't lost any races off the World Championship yet. Let's hope we don't at all. I'm teetering on this as we begin the new year. What did I just tell you a few minutes ago? New year, new me. No new anybody. But we're facing the same problems. And here we are with the Australian Grand Prix, COVID-19, blah, 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 blah. More troubles for motorsports. The Daytona 500 in February looking to be run in front of a limited number of people. And that's where we're getting with this. We've had a year since Australia actually was scheduled to have a race. And all, race officials, the FIA, NASCAR, IndyCar, we've cobbled together schedules. We've piecemealed together stuff. We should be running the Australian Grand Prix on its date in a matter of ways. There's several ways we could be doing it. We should be doing it. Now, right up until airtime tonight, as we do this show, looking at the clock, 7:37 p.m. Eastern Time. That puts us 11:37 a.m. on Tuesday morning in Australia. No word has come yet as we went live to air tonight. We should be running this race, though. Not that I'm a COVID expert, but I'm a realist and your average guy. We can run these races with social distancing. We're getting back into opening things up with masks, with precautions, whatever we have to do. Or, here's an idea, from the blue-collar man's world, open the world up. Just open everything up, and you have the right to stay home. How about we do that? That's an option as well. You can also have events with safety protocols in place. Another option. Why are we postponing the Australian Grand Prix? I see it last March. We had no idea what we were dealing with here. We had to err on the side of caution. This thing could have been big. We get into the politics and the news reporting of it, which has been unimpressive to me for most of the last year. However, why are we postponing this Grand Prix? What's going to change from March to whenever the date gets plugged in? Are we, vaccine, the spread, the numbers? I don't get it. There's no reason at this point that we should be postponing this Grand Prix. It should be happening. And then where do we go with Bahrain a week later? What's going to happen there? Are we just running scared from this thing? Why does COVID not cross certain bodies of water in the world? No, that's not it. I don't understand why we're not running this race. It should be run as scheduled on time. We did so many last year. We came close to a full schedule in Formula One as we raced across Europe. I didn't like how things went, but it beats canceling them. And the Australian Grand Prix seems to be the first step in maybe canceling it or running a little bit scared. I think it's time to turn around, flex your muscles, and maybe Americanize the Australian Grand Prix and push forward and do this thing. We should not be postponing this Grand Prix. We should be setting an example to the world. The sports world, the motorsports world, should be setting an example on how to properly do a sporting event safely. NASCAR was one of the first groups that introduced any kind of sports back into the American lifestyle last year. The first one that did it, the World Wrestling Federation. They did it. NASCAR did it. We modified how we did things, but they got the stuff in. Now we're here a year later, and the Australian officials, the Australian people, the governing body for this race in the FIA, should be running the GP as scheduled on time, with modifications if they need to put it in place. Shame on them. Hand slap. Thumbs down for postponing the Australian GP. So sad, as I fear another year of running scared as opposed to addressing this problem, getting this underneath us. As I work on organizing events here in the United States as part of what I do outside of motorsports, I work every day on trying to find new solutions to the problem that don't include canceling and postponing things. The Australian officials have had almost a year to do this, and they're the first ones to step back and bow down and not step forward with their scheduled race. Boo. I like you guys as far as I want to visit someday. No, don't postpone this race. Do something about it and stop running scared. All right, I'm off my soapbox for COVID-19 and racing. Let's get to some good stuff, which gives me a chance to bash a little NASCAR. The Superstar Racing Experience, we've shortened it to the SRX. Many of you have heard about it. The new racing series debuting this coming year with Tony Stewart and Ray Evernham at the helm. We've talked about this. We've heard about this, and as the past weeks and months, end of 2020 came about, and more details about this series became a little bit more clear, more into focus as to what's going on and what's happening. It's a short track series, folks. All right, you've got my attention already. We're going to start June the 12th in Stafford Springs, Connecticut, and we're going to be run 6 consecutive Saturday nights next summer, televised live by CBS Sports. Oh, yeah, you got my attention even further now. Reminds me of Thursday Thunder back in the day on ESPN. This time we're going to do it on CBS Sports and with a little different cars. Not USAC cars, a form of a modified car. We're going to go to Stafford, Connecticut, and then for 6 consecutive weeks, Knoxville, Iowa, Rossburg, Ohio, Lucas Oil Raceway, Indianapolis, Slinger, Wisconsin, and concluding at the Nashville Fairgrounds. Potentially more races could be added. So far, here's the drivers we've got running in this thing. Willie T. Ribbs, oh yeah, nice. Tony Stewart, naturally, Paul Tracy, Tony Kanaan, Bobby Labonte, Mark Webber, Bill Elliott, Ernie Francis Jr., and Elio Castroneves. That is what an IROC field used to look like. International flavor, champions and winners across the globe, road racing, dirt racing, pavement racing, and here they are in their little IROC series. Now let's have a look at the big picture here. You delve into this because we can get into politics a little bit on this. Let's get into politics a lot on this. Stafford, Connecticut used to have a NASCAR sanction for their Friday night shows for decades. As long as I've been alive, if not longer, I believe. They're not a NASCAR affiliate this year, not sanctioned by them. Rossburg, Ohio had the truck race, no longer has the truck race. Busch Cars is known as Xfinity now, and trucks used to run at Lucas Oil Raceway in Indianapolis. They no longer are there. And the Nashville Fairgrounds was also in contention for a Cup Series race. No, that went to the Nashville Super Speedway and not the short track. Things that make you go, Now, all these folks are now hosting SRX races with this new series. Now, the big picture here, how long has it been rumored that there could be a ripe opportunity for another series to come along and eat up and pick up the scraps that NASCAR has left behind and actually step forward and possibly be the new 600-pound gorilla in American motorsports? That talk gets stronger every year. It has been going on for 20 or 30 years as Bruton Smith was so pissed off at NASCAR over the years. He had enough tracks to start his own series, but he understands the value of NASCAR at that time. NASCAR's value is really pennies on the dollar now compared to where it was 20 years ago. And the big picture here, are we seeing the first steps of another series stepping forward and possibly being the challenger to the Cup Series? I don't know. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but driving these short track races is what fans want. We want a mix of dirt and pavement. Saturday nights, we dig, and just more about the racing and less about the show. If the race is good, you've got a good show. If the race is so-so, that's how the show goes, instead of the artificial aspect that NASCAR gives us week in, week out in the Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series with stages, playoffs, and everything else you can figure out that's like an NFL playoff system that we're trying to pick stuff into an auto race, which none of them should be there. So the Superstar Racing Experience will begin at Stafford in June. That's a half mile. Knoxville a half mile. Rossburg a half mile. Half mile at Lucas Oil Raceway, a little bigger at Nashville. Slinger is a high bank quarter mile. I got to see Formula One winner Mark Webber on a quarter mile oval. That will be pretty cool here. Is this the first steps of this? Is Bruton Smith kind of in the background, keeping a very close eye? Or in this case, Marcus Smith, maybe in the background for Speedway Motorsports, keeping a very close eye on where this series goes. NASCAR has just dwindled and dwindled and dwindled and fallen behind the 8 ball severely, and they can grateful that COVID-19 happened in 2020 so they can look at their empty grandstands and blame it on the coronavirus when their actual fan count has just dwindled tremendously and they lost so many more this year for all the missteps and mistakes they made. This could be it. This could be, where were you when SRX was started? Where were you when the NASCAR Grand National Series started in 1948 and NASCAR was sanctioned and ran their first race here in Charlotte, North Carolina? Where were you when that happened? This may be the case of where were you when SRX took its first green flag in 2021. I'm interested, very, very interested in seeing where this goes. Plus, I like the tracks that they're racing on. All fantastic short tracks that are racy, well-known, well-kept. This is going to be something good. Where will the Cup Series be, or the Truck Series, or the Xfinity Series be those weekends? I have no idea, nor do I care. I'll be interested in where the SRX Series is going next year. Let's talk about NASCAR a little bit further. In somewhat of an analytical light, you're familiar with Rhonda Beck, who is an author on the SpeedwayReport.com site. You can go there to check out a lot of her articles. She did one in recent months this past year on Tyrone McIntyre, a man of color who is dedicated to the sport of auto racing, is here in the Carolinas, and helps local racing quite a bit. He's a fixture there, somewhat of an icon with his years of service to the sport. Rhonda put me in touch with Tyrone. I talked to Tyrone this past week, and he told me that Bill Lester has a new book coming out, should be coming out early 2021, possibly February, and the title of it, Winning in Reverse, could be a very interesting story on his experience in auto racing. Bill is a former sports car racer and then moved over to the NASCAR series, ran in the trucks, ran in the Cup Series. And I didn't know this, but Bill's also a speaker for hire as well. And I got a lot of information off his website, BillLester.com. Bill is a speaker. Some of the topics he hits on are innovation, perseverance, teamwork, and of course, diversity. Now, Bill talks about his time in NASCAR. In the book, I'm certainly that's going to be a part of it. How far back in his career professionally as well as road racing. There's probably going to be a lot of aspects of this. I was hoping to talk to Bill before this broadcast tonight. We haven't talked yet, but as soon as I do, I'll find out more about the book and tell you guys about it. But certainly Winning in Reverse, Bill Lester, another man of color, his skin color basically were a huge factor and impact in his career, his progress, his derailment, what have you, the good times and bad times. There's probably a lot mixed in there. He knows, Bill is well aware, that he stepped forward into the world of NASCAR, primarily a Southern sport with roots there, primarily, with white folks. And Bill, a man of color, made his mark in that. And he will talk certainly about racism in the book. Now, I have been around the sport of auto racing most of my entire life, been involved in NASCAR. Have I ever experienced or seen racism in comments? Yes, but to a very minor extent, very little extent. As someone told me recently, hey, as a person of color that I know said, try living with my skin color, you will have a different experience. Open my eyes, open my ears to be receptive and listening to the stories of others. Bill Lester's story, I certainly do want to hear about his experience, what he's gone through. Obviously a talented racer. He made it to the Cup level. He made it to the Truck Series. He ran well. He ran well in sports cars before he got to NASCAR. Different points of view. As this was a touchy subject during this past year with social tensions here in the United States. I'm a white male. That's the only point of view I have. There are other points of view and far different experiences in the world than I have experienced. I want to hear those, especially when it comes to a sport that I love so much, auto racing, particularly my background in NASCAR. If you have another experience, I certainly want to hear about it. Bill Lester, I definitely want to talk to him and get my hands on this book. So we'll see what happens over the coming weeks. This could be a very interesting read, different perspective on the sport. And Bill's given a lot to the sport of auto racing. Good racer, dedicated guy, well-spoken, did all the right things. And I want to see what the color of his skin, how it impacted his career, the good, the bad, the indifferent. I want to hear about that. So hopefully we'll be getting a chance to talk to Bill here in the very near future. Good dude. Met him briefly. Don't know him that well, but know how he came across in the media, on television, and in print. That was very well. He represented himself, his sponsors, and the sport very well. Looking forward to talking about him. So we're going through Rondebeck, we're going through Tyrone McIntyre, and we're going to go to Bill Lester. Somehow we're going to get a pretty good story here and learn about the book. And as information develops and as it gets released, I think you guys will be real interested in what is coming up here. But if you want a little bit of a preview, BillLester.com, you can check out the book and a little bit of highlights of what it's about, a couple cover photos of you for it there, and we'll all see here as we get into February, and Speed Weeks would be a great time to release the book and share it with you and our audience. Moving on, we lost a few folks, had a lot of family ties to the sport, short tracks all the way up to Formula One and the major leagues of auto racing. Barbara Evans passed away during shortly around the Christmas holiday. She passed away recently. She was Richie Evans' first wife. So huge history in the sport with Evans, a NASCAR Hall of Famer, and certainly where I came from in the short tracks in the Northeast. We also lost Aldo Andretti. He is Mario's twin brother and father to John. John passed away in early 2020. Aldo passed away just as 2020 coming to a close. Tough year for that side of the Andretti family. Aldo went through a lot, was a very good racer in his own right. Injuries, severe injuries, derailed his driving career, but he certainly brought along a young racer in John, who turned into a heck of a career. You know, John's son, Jarrett, is making his own mark as he climbs through the ranks. So peace and prayers go out to the Evans and Andretti families for the loss. It's so hard, so close to Christmas and New Year's. Wish them both well. To the tip of the hat to Dave Despain and Motor Week Illustrated, I will give my Racer of the Week award to Mitchell Moles. He defeated over, not in his class, but overall, over 1,000 entries for the Tulsa, Oklahoma Tulsa Shootout. Home of the Chili Bowl, Tulsa, Oklahoma, just this week. A little bit of on-track action, and gosh, when you go to Tulsa, even for the shootout, even though it's not the Chili Bowl, it's still, gosh, that's a lot of cars and a lot of alphabet soups you have to work your way through, and gosh, you wind up in victory lane on the A main in the lead class. That is some impressive driving. In between our shows, you keep up on the world of racing with SpeedwayReport.com. As I talked about Rondebeck earlier, she's got some good articles to read on there, and we have all of our shows archived. So if you want to download one for a road trip, please do. I am all yours. Social media. The Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds on Facebook. Racers Reunion on Facebook. On Twitter, I'm at Speedway Report and at Speedway Pat. We are at racersreunion.com in the forum. And like I said at the top of the show, hit up our YouTube channel, and we're just in your mailbox every single week. I want to thank all of the military past and present for the freedoms we enjoy as Americans in our daily life, including the simple things like bench racing right here on a Monday night. Freedom is not free, and a veteran paid that bill for us. To all of the men and women who are defending freedom and watching Speedway Report, you take care of yourselves and come home soon. A special salute to the teachers, school staff, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics in our own communities. They are quiet and modest heroes every single day. God bless and thank you. You have been watching Speedway Report from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. Please like our Facebook page, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds, and you can follow me on Twitter at SpeedwayPat. Now, if you're on Facebook Live right now, head on over to Drag Racing List, because at the top of the hour, in about 5 minutes, John Bockelman and Bill Pratt will take you away for the Straight Liner News. I'll be back here live on Facebook Monday, January the 11th, with the opening night of Chili Bowl week and the Ice Bowl from Talladega. Thank you all for watching. You take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Happy New Year, everybody. I'll see you all next week.